Yeah, it's fantastic. I caught up with Rod earlier today, so yeah, he's one of the all-time greats of our sport, and I'm privileged that he's Australian, and that he played Davis Cup for Australia, and I obviously have been able to spend a bit of time with him over quite the number of years that I've played on the tour. So I've won 2 Grand Slams, so the whole 4 majors in 1 year. It's pretty amazing.
Growing up, when you heard the name Rod Laver, what did that mean to you as a young Australian?
It was obviously one of the greats. He turned professional as well, so he wasn't allowed to play a lot of Grand Slams back then as well. So, who knows how many he could have won. But he's a quality bloke as well. Which a lot of those the older Australians who played in that generation, they really were.
Final question: what kind of an honour is it to be known as an Australian, as a great Australian on the same list as him?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Obviously, there's been so many great Australian tennis players before me, and that's one of the reasons I pride playing Davis Cup for Australia. We've won it so many times, and you look at the honour board and the guys that have played before me, and that's why I like trying carry that on, and the records that I have in Davis Cup for Australia, that makes me even more prouder.
How has this guy really inspired you and all the Australians?
Massive. To win 2 Grand Slams and the 4 majors in 1 year, it's unheard of. So to do that twice, and obviously turn professional, he's been a great Davis Cup player, he's so humble. It's a great honour just to be a part of him and his career, and it was good to see him here at the tournament.
Rod Laver.
Rod Laver is one of the tennis geniuses. He is a titan. He is one of our grandest champions. Perhaps our greatest champion. We'll see Laver, Federer, Sampras. This is the Rushmore of tennis. These are the true giants of our sport. And Rod Laver doing it with class, doing it with grace, always kind to his opponents, always kind to people he meets. He is just such a classy, great genius of a champion.
What's your memory of him?
You'll have to get the tape, man.
Well, if it's any indication, the Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne, Australia. It's our shining light of the Australian Open, and what can you say about Rod? The accomplishments that he's had in tennis, what he's done for Australian tennis, it's hard to beat. And we're very proud that he's a legend of Australian tennis, and very proud of his accomplishments, and very happy that everyone in tennis and every Australian can call him a great friend.
What has he done for the whole sport, just being Rod Laver?
Well, his approach to the sport, the humble manner that he has about his accomplishments, you would never think that the way he carries himself, that he accomplished what he did, and it's truly remarkable. And I know a special experience I had once was watching John McEnroe and Rod Laver, and standing right next to them, watching them interact with each other, and it was great to see how much respect John had as an example for Rod. Anyone in tennis, and those that have followed tennis, have an unbelievable amount of respect and admiration for Rod the man and what Rod has accomplished.
And final thing on Rod Laver, what do you think about Rod Laver being the best, one of the best ever, just a great guy?
Well, I don't think there's any question he's one of the best ever. He won 2 calendar year Grand Slams, wins it in '62 as an amateur when he's a younger player, and then goes off, plays with the pro, wasn't exactly the pro tour, but the pros who were barnstorming tours, plays against all the best, then comes back in '69 and wins it again. A lot of people thought, there's all these super amateurs who are going to be able to outleg Rod. Oh, no, not at all. Great serve, excellent lefty forehand, knifed shift backhand, could hit winners from the back, fantastic volleyer. Without a doubt, to me, still one of the top 5 players ever.
And why is his game so effective?
Well, I think, look, left-hander, understood how to twist the ball out wide, could dominate with the forehand, sort of like Rafa Nadal before Rafa Nadal, even though he went to net a lot. Huge forearm. He could pace the ball even flat with the backhand down the line, understood when to chip and charge, when to stay back, when to rush the net, when you needed to hit a big overhead, when you needed to hit one just to keep yourself in play. A great understanding of the game and a heck of a competitor.
Final question, how is the tennis game world different as a result of Rod Laver?
Oh, remarkably different. I think the most important thing now to understand about Laver is that when people talk about all-time greats like Federer or Nadal or Pete Sampras or even Agassi, none of those players have been able to win 2 calendar year Grand Slams. You start in Australia, go through the French Open, go through Wimbledon, go through the U.S. Open, and do that once. No one's been able to do it. Try doing that twice against all sorts of competition, keeping yourself healthy, winning one big match after another. That's why Rod stands apart.
You're the best, Mr. Cronin. Tell me your thoughts on what makes Rod Laver quite possibly maybe the best ever.
Well, he's certainly one of the greatest players ever. He had this Popeye left arm, which, if you see it, probably even today, looks fairly formidable. And he was one of the first, well, he was probably the first left-hander to go over on his backhand, to produce topspin on the backhand, because left-handers were notoriously weak on their backhand side and used to slice all the time. And Laver had the ability to go over the ball, and that's what set him apart when he started playing. And he was a wonderful volleyer and as fast as light. Even though he was a small man, he didn't have a huge serve, but he placed it well, and he was just a great champion. He was a great winner.
How about his charisma as a person?
Very low-key. He wasn't a flamboyant personality on court. He's not really a flamboyant personality off court. But I'll tell you something, I've never heard anyone say anything bad about Rod Laver. He is the most popular, charming, sweet guy you'll ever meet in your life, and I get a huge kick. Not as big a kick as he does, but still all his friends get a huge kick of going down to Melbourne and seeing Rod Laver not only emblazoned on this arena, the Rod Laver Arena, but you walk around the city and it's a destination. The trams have Rod Laver on them because that's a destination, and it's what he thoroughly deserves.
Final question on Rod. His legacy is amazing, and even Pete Sampras modeled his game after him. So what do you think about, his legacy and inspiring guys like even Pete?
Well, yes, anybody who followed him in the subsequent years of Laver's career were in awe of him because he had this amazing game, and as I said, he was such a great champion in every sense that everybody wanted to take something from him if they could. And Pete Sampras was one of the great champions who had Rocket, as we call him, the Rockhampton Rocket, as his hero, and quite right too.
Thank you so much. I'll ask you, how did Rod Laver inspire guys like you?
Well, you just hear so much about that old school type player, Rod Laver, and a lot of the old Aussies, and they were class acts. On top of what they did on the court, they instilled this sense of really work ethic and just of sort of camaraderie and being a gentleman. More importantly, they didn't just teach young Australians how to play, but how to act and how to conduct themselves as people, and that's sort of what you hear about Rod Laver, just an old school class act.
Thank you so much, man. What are your thoughts on Rod Laver?
I can't say enough about Rod Laver. I think he's a great player. I think probably Federer has to go down as maybe being a better player, but I mean what he did, winning the 2 Grand Slams, one as an amateur, one as a pro. The other thing is, I think he's a really just a fantastic person. I know back in the day, John Newcomb did a lot of commentary. Newcomb's a very urbane guy, a very charming guy, and all that stuff, and he was a terrific commentator. But I remember a few times just hearing Laver do commentary, and he didn't say much, but boom, everything he said was really convincing, and just a humble guy. My favorite story about him is a couple of years ago, I was at the Australian Open downstairs in the lower part where the locker rooms are and all that stuff, and he was coming through a security check, and this is Rod Laver.
Let's do that again because that card. Okay, so you start with your favorite story. 3, 2, 1.
Well, my favorite story about Rod Laver is a couple of years ago I was at the Australian Open down near the lockers in the lower part of the Rod Laver Arena, and Laver was coming along and he was going through a security check right near where the locker rooms are and where the players get their tennis balls and the practice courts and all that stuff near the players' restaurant. And there was Laver being stopped by a security guard in Rod Laver Arena checking his badge. And I sort of thought, hey, wait a minute, this is Rod Laver Arena and you're not going to let this guy in. He wasn't being all hostile to him or anything like that, but Laver would never raise a peep. I mean, he would never do anything, never pull rank and say, yeah, I'm Rod Laver. Just a completely humble guy, and I think everybody respects him for that side of the thing, and also for just being an unbelievably brilliant player. I mean, he's just one of the really sort of electric players in the Federer tradition, in the Henri Leconte tradition, maybe a bit of the Sampras tradition. Just a fantastic shot maker. So when you went to watch him play, you just see a lot of tremendous tennis strokes. So I can't say enough about the guy. I think he was just a down-to-earth guy and just about as good a tennis player as the world's ever seen.
Final question: how did he revolutionize the game?
Well, I guess he revolutionized the game basically with his backhand. He hit topspin off the backhand. He could really roll the backhand. And before that, I think that maybe guys hit flat or slice of it, but he hit right over the backhand, and that was pretty revolutionary in his day. And then Guillermo Vilas, sort of in the late 70s, 80s, he did a bit more of that. So that and just the fact that he was, he just the fact that he dominated so much, and to win the Grand Slam in '62 and then win it again in '69 when all the professionals had come back into the game, and so all the very best opponents were there, and to win 4 tournaments in a row against the best competition just set a standard that, well, nobody's ever done it since. So what more can you say about Laver? The fact that he won that Grand Slam in '69, already had one in '62, and nobody's been able to do it since. I mean, granted, there were 3 of the 4 were on grass back then, so that makes a little bit of a difference. But really, to pull through and do it the way he did, and I know he was in a few jams at various times in some of those events. So just a great player and tremendous ambassador for the sport. And every time you're in Melbourne and you see Rod Laver Arena and you go by it on the train or something like that, you just think, I mean, it couldn't be called anything else.